All right, everybody, good evening, and today let's talk about the iFi Audio Neo Stream. Instead of doing this video in kind of a more of a linear kind of hi-fi review type fashion, let's do it as a pro and con. I think it'll make things more concise, and it'll also make it a little bit more straight to the point. So let's get started. So everybody, let's also do a little bit of an unboxing and kind of show you around. Obviously, I've already got it opened up. Of course, you get the unit, the Wi-Fi aerial. You get some RCA interconnects, also an Ethernet cable. The world's shortest, by the way. This thing's no longer than a foot. You get the optical Ethernet box as well. Basically, Ethernet this side, and you get your optical out here, and it uses these connectors here. You take it off and it just sort of plugs in, and bada bing, bada boom, there you go. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple, okay? And it also does require a power supply. Does not include a USB-C cable, but it does include a power supply to power it. You just need to provide your own USB cable. Anyway, that is basically it for the unboxing. All right, everybody, I thought in addition to showing you the device, I'd also show you the software, the iFi Audio Streamer software, which I didn't do with the ZenStream, which I wanted to kind of rectify now. When you pull it up, sometimes it takes a second. I was trying to play some public radio there, but it doesn't work, which I talk about in a little later on in the video. But here's basically the main screen. Playlist, if you have them. Of course, music library. Basically is your music overall, whether it be either the front or the rear USB. I'm just using the rear USB here. You can kind of drill down into the files, you know, what we have here, and I can like hit here and hit play, for example, and it'll play that album. Of course, I can go into an album and play a specific song if I just click on it, and it'll start playing that, as you see. We can go back. We can also go home, and it brings us back here. We can access artists and albums directly, as you see. We can also access media service or NAS drives if we have those connected. Web radio, which we can go to as well. I couldn't get this to work and to actually play music, so you know, I talk about that a little bit later on in the video. Of course, here's a cue as well. See what songs it's going to play next. You can also save this as a playlist, that kind of thing, if that's what you wanted. Going into settings here, we can do sources. You can see, you know, you can turn on functionality for Tidal Connect, Roon, AirPlay, Spotify, all of that stuff. If for some reason our albums didn't load correctly off the USB, we can rescan and do that kind of stuff there. Of course, playback options. This is where you select, you know, analog or digital output. What happens with MQA or DSD. Also, this is volume options, is where you select basically preamp functionality. If you want the volume control to work, you can make that so. Appearance, you can change language and, you know, kind of the appearance of it. Obviously, network is network settings and so forth. System is, you can change system settings as well as factory reset and updates and that sort of thing. Of course, shutdown is obviously shutdown. And iFi Audio will basically just take you to the website. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Pretty straightforward, very much along the same lines as what Volumio is, kind of more or less works in the same way, really not a whole lot different. If something you've got actually has album art, like for example this, and I hit play for example, the album art will display on the screen of the unit itself, so that's kind of neat. But anyway. All right, let's start with the pros, okay? Pro number one, ergonomics. This thing is just fantastically built. The buttons, everything, the connections on the rear, sticking things in and out work very well. You know, that's a big pro to me. Everything feels well built, feels well made, and just solid. And you feel like you're getting your, what, $1,100–1,200 worth. Number two is the preamp. Something I didn't really consider as a feature on this when I got it was its preamp functionality. You can use it as a preamp and use the volume to control the volume of whatever it is you're streaming and listening to. And it's something I didn't really think about, like I said, but I was using it with my Yallerhorn before I got rid of it. I was using it with my Sansui power amp as well, and it just is a fantastic sounding preamp. It works well. Volume is very linear. It also, because of the way the volume, kind of the digital volume, is it sounds great at low volume, but it also sounds great at high volume when you're really blasting. It sounds great in either way. So yeah. Another pro, of course, is connectivity. Obviously, we have RCA out, we have ASEBU out, we have the 4.4 Pentacon out. We have coax, optical, I2S, USB audio. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different outputs that you can utilize. And I think you can use them simultaneously. And yeah, you can use them simultaneously as well. You know, connectivity is just fantastic on this thing. I also had a thumb drive hooked up to the top one. Works fantastic. Works very, very well. Your internet connectivity is varied as well. You have what's called an M12 jack. This is a sort of a ruggedized industrial type internet connector that you don't normally see on consumer level products. However, here it is. Is it better than RJ45 standard Ethernet? I don't know. I didn't try it. You can buy cables Ethernet to M12. This is called Xcode or Codex. Yeah, let me step off of that. But anyway, there are different specifications for an M12 connector. Just know that this is a particular one. I forget which one. It has your standard Ethernet, and it also has your optical connector as well. And I actually utilize this basically with the optical box that comes with it, which I've already shown. You can hook an Ethernet into that. It converts your standard Ethernet signal into an optical signal through the box and then into this. And honestly, it really truly improved the sound. It just kind of sounded cleaner, in my opinion. Almost like there was less noise, which I guess you would kind of come to expect, being as you're not using copper electrical signals, you're using simply light to transmit data. And so I believe that's kind of the advantage of that. And since this thing comes with the optical box anyway, I would suggest you just go ahead and use it. It just makes sense. It's there. Why not? You know what I mean? But I primarily used Wi-Fi just because of where my room is at, my listening room, and everything. It just made sense to use Wi-Fi just because of the way it works. And just because of running a cable is just too problematic. And I don't want these ad hoc solutions where you can run Ethernet over power lines and, you know, and all that kind of stuff and Wi-Fi routers, and I just didn't want to do any of that. Let's just run Wi-Fi. I didn't notice a huge performance difference between Wi-Fi and the standard Ethernet or the optical as well. Again, there was a difference between Ethernet and optical, but in my opinion, between the Wi-Fi and the Ethernet, not a big deal. Anyway, so biggest thing was sound quality. I mean, really open, really spacious sounding, very much a hi-fi sound, but while still being enjoyable and not analytical. Kind of like a best of both worlds kind of thing. You're able to hear into the music, you're able to kind of hear the nuances and inflections of songs, and you're like hear thing, oh, I've never heard that before, that kind of thing. But without being overly clinical and like it's like boring, right? Or takes you away from the emotion of the music, if you know what I mean. This does that very well. It does share sonically a family resemblance to the ZenStream, almost unusually so. Where this jumps and leapfrogs over the ZenStream is probably in a way that most people aren't going to really utilize, and that's with DSD. Now, I've been a big proponent of DSD, although it's something I don't talk about on my channel, but I've got 50 gigs of DSD files on here, everything from Miles Davis to Chet Baker. I've got a whole bunch of stuff on here. DSD 64, 128, I have several 256 files as well, and that's where this thing really comes into its own. This is honestly the best I've ever heard DSD sound, and for me, it won't apply to everybody because I agree with like people like John Darko who talk about DSD being, oh, it sounds great, but it's kind of a unicorn format. There's nothing I want to listen to. Well, I get that. Yeah, I certainly understand it. But at the same time, there are things I enjoy listening to on DSD. So I got them. And through this, they sound fantastic. Literally the best I've ever heard that album sound. I mean, it's just phenomenal. I've got Kinda Blue on here in 256. And it is just outrageously good how good it sounds. It's just immaculately, immensely, like transcendent. I mean, I hate to sound hyperbolic about it, but I mean, it's just, God, it just sounds great. And that's really its trump card for me in that aspect, is really DSD, in the sense of having local files. Of course, you can do that through the app, plug a USB stick through the back, or of course, through the front as well you have, but this is a USB-C, and you can access those files through the app and play them through the app. And like I said, DSD was really a revelation through this. I've obviously have heard my DSD files through other things as well, but it was really exceptional through here. I really can't stress that enough. And for me, that was the biggest pro of all, was listening to my DSD files through this. And yeah, well, anyway, let's move on to the cons. All right, so the biggest con, I'll start with that, is really the stability of this thing. And I noticed it with the ZenStream, and I talked about it with the ZenStream as well, but I think I noticed it more with here, and I'm not sure. I am in a different house. I do have different Wi-Fi, although it wasn't just the Wi-Fi, it was also through the Ethernet, through the optical Ethernet as well. I noticed it where occasionally, after, and I don't even say occasionally because it did happen frequently, after about 30 minutes of listening to music, this thing would cut out. And it wouldn't just cut out, it would like reset itself. I have no clue. It would reset itself, basically turn itself off and on more or less, and it would have to reconnect and you'd have to wait. And I experienced it whether it be local files, whether it be Tidal Connect, Spotify Connect. I got a Spotify premium membership, started listening to that a lot. I noticed it there. I noticed it with basically everything. And I hate to call it a con, but it is a con. It is something I noticed. It is worth pointing out. And I hate to call it a con because that may not apply to you. And again, like I said, whether it be the Wi-Fi or any of the hardwired internet connections, I noticed it. And you could say, well, maybe it's software. Well, when I got this thing, I could not get it to connect to the internet at all through any means. And I thought, well, okay, well, I'll update it. And you can update it. There's a little USB-C stick slot here where you can do a system update. So I updated it. And I had to update it 3 times before the update took. And finally it took, and then I was able to connect to the internet. I have no clue what that was. And the initial time I got it to connect, it would only play local files for some reason. It wouldn't connect to Tidal, to Qobuz, to anything. It wouldn't connect to nothing. I can only play local files off of here. And I also have FLAC on here as well. But anyway, it would only play local files. It wouldn't play any kind of internet type music at all. As a matter of fact, I still can't get it to play internet radio, even though internet radio is an option on the app. I can't get it to play internet radio. I have no clue why. I've tried resetting it. I've tried redoing the software update a couple of times since I got it to work, and it still won't do it. I have no idea what it is. And I am using Android. Maybe that's it. Although the app is pretty stable. I haven't noticed any negatives to the app. Doesn't run funky or anything. So that's the biggest con with this thing, is kind of finicky, flaky network stability and connectivity. You know, that's really my biggest bugbear with this. And I noticed it with the ZenStream, and I pointed it out with the ZenStream. And same thing applies with the NeoStream. Is the network stability is just kind of and I hate to say it, this being such a positive review overall of the NeoStream, but that's one area where Sonos and Bluesound really have this covered in spades. and have it way over this is the fact that of just network stability. I had a Bluesound Node, and while I do prefer the sound of the ZenStream and conversely the NeoStream, the Bluesound was just tremendously stable. It just worked. My wife and I went away for a month and came back, and the Bluesound, I just instantly connected to Bluesound, turned on my stereo, and I was playing music, listening along. No problem, like nothing, like I'd never left. And it had been gone for weeks. And I had turned it on and used it in weeks. And it just worked. And, I would think a company as big as iFi and as big as its parent company, Abington Music Research, AMR, as big as their budget is, they could make that a better thing. So that's it. Another con, of course, is really more of a question of value. Mentioning the first con, and again, really the only biggest one for me, is other than the build quality of this thing, the usability, the user experience, the app, all of this stuff, I don't feel like I'm using a $1,100, $1,200 product. I don't get that impression. For something of what it is and what it cost, you think it would have a better, more upscale user experience. Think about it like a hotel. You go stay at a $35 Best Western, you know what you're getting. All right, you're getting the bed bugs, you're getting somebody left a turd in the toilet. That's what you're getting. Okay, and you expect that. But if I go to New York City and I stay off of Fifth Avenue in the Ritz whatever hotel, and it costs $15,000 a night, I'm expecting a valet. I'm expecting a butler to put on my pants in the morning. That's what I'm expecting. And compared to something like the Wim Mini or the Argon Solo or something for couple hundred bucks, the user experience here isn't distinctly different. It's like staying at the Ritz-Carlton and getting the same exact experience you have at the Best Western. It's like, why did I pay all this extra money for? Just because it has a nice knob, has a screen. Ooh, there's a $1,000 screen right there. See what I mean? That leads me into what I recommended. And yes, I would recommend it. I think sound quality, outside of the usability aspect of it and the kind of the network snafus I had, which even though I listed as a con, I'm going to sort of usurp myself and say it's not a con, because I'm not sure that I didn't get a bum unit, or maybe it's a network issue. I don't think it's a network issue because I also have another streamer here that doesn't have those issues. So only this thing has those issues. But perhaps it's this thing, software, hardware, interacting with my network causing the problems. Which is why with these network streamers, if a reviewer oftentimes has network issues, and he mentions them as a part of the review, it's best to take those network issues as a grain of salt instead of as an absolute. Because just because he had those issues with his system and his network doesn't mean you will. But yeah, I'd still recommend it solely on the basis of sound quality alone, especially and most particularly with DSD. It's just phenomenal. I mean, literally, with any number of components I have here, and I've heard over the years, with the way it handled DSD, it's truly some of the best sound I've ever heard. I'm not even kidding about that. But yeah, that's it for tonight. Stay tuned. I've got some more content coming. I've got a super budget system coming up soon I'm going to be talking about, so look forward to that. Please do, and like and subscribe and all that good stuff, and peace out.